stood shoulder to shoulder, 300 warriors, sons of Sparta, forged in fire, raised for death. In the narrow pass of Thermopylae they waited, helmets glinting in the morning sun, bronze shields pressed tight against their chests, eyes locked on a sea of enemies. The Persian horde, tens of thousands strong and rising. The ground trembled beneath 1,000 war drums, but the Spartans did not flinch. They had been training for this moment since they were boys, to stand, to kill, to die. And so they did. Spears shattered, blood soaked the earth. And still they held the line for one day, then two, then three, until every last one of them fell. Heroes, martyrs, the defenders of the West. Or at least that's the story we're told. You've seen it in movies, heard it in classrooms, felt it in your bones. But what if the truth was nothing like the myth? What if those warriors didn't die for freedom, but for a regime built on slavery, fear, and violence? Beneath the surface of the Spartan legend lies something far uglier. Sparta wasn't a beacon of liberty. It was a prison encased in armor. Its warriors didn't fight for democracy. They fought for a system where free speech was silenced, foreigners were shunned, and mercy was weakness. And the freedom they defended at Thermopylae, it wasn't for everyone. It certainly wasn't for the Helots, the enslaved population that outnumbered Spartans by as much as 10 to 1, taken as slaves from previous conquests. They farmed the land, raised the food, served the soldiers, yet they had no rights, no voice, no protection. And if they stepped out of line, they were hunted, slaughtered. No courts, no rights, no voice. They lived in fear. And that fear is what made Sparta work. Because the Helots were not just slaves. They were the foundation of Spartan society. Every Spartan warrior who stood tall at Thermopylae stood on their backs. They did everything the Spartans wouldn't. Farming, cleaning, raising children, dying in silence. They were bound to the land, stripped of freedom, regularly humiliated, forced to wear dogskin caps, drunk in public for Spartan amusement. When war came, they were sent first, unarmed, undervalued, forgotten. They lived in constant fear, not just of death, but of being noticed. Spartan boys were taught to kill Helots as training. That wasn't war. It was terror, codified. And yet we don't know their names. No statues, no epics, no voice. They were the foundation of Sparta's power and its greatest victims. Every Spartan boy belonged to the state. At age 7, he was torn from his mother and thrown into the agoge, Sparta's ruthless military training program. There, they were starved, beaten, and forced to fight. The goal? Kill fear, kill mercy, kill doubt. Obedience was everything. Individuality was crushed. Pain wasn't endured, it was expected. And if he survived, then came the Krypteia, the final test, a rite of passage soaked in blood. Teenagers sent into the wild with only a knife, ordered to assassinate Helots under the cover of night. No trial, no reason, no resistance. If a Helot looked too healthy, too confident, they died. This wasn't warfare, it was psychological control, terror as statecraft. Every Helot had to know, you are always being watched, and at any moment you could be killed. That's how Sparta kept power, not through honor, but through fear. We often credit ancient Greece as the cradle of Western civilization. Philosophy, democracy, drama, science. But Sparta contributed none of it. There were no Spartan plays, no Spartan scientists, no Socrates, no Pythagoras, no Parthenon. They used iron bars to keep trade away. They built walls not of stone, but of men. They bred isolation, fear, and silence. They banned travel, outlawed luxuries, distrusted change. Athens called them backwards. Corinth distrusted them. Thebes hated them. Sparta was not admired. It was endured. It wasn't a city of virtue. It was a war machine, built to sustain itself and nothing more. Sparta was a state obsessed with survival, and that obsession made it hollow. Sparta is often praised for its women, and it's true. Compared to the rest of ancient Greece, Spartan women had unusual freedoms. They could own property. They were educated. They trained their bodies just like the men. To the outside world, they looked powerful, independent, valued. But that power had a purpose, and it wasn't theirs. Spartan women existed for one purpose: to breed warriors. They were tools of the state, valued not for their voice, but for their wombs. A mother's greatest pride, sending her son to die in war. Come back with your shield, or on it. That wasn't poetry, it was policy. Spartan women were expected to be strong, so they could produce stronger sons. Their identity was not their own. Their strength served the system, and if they failed in that role, they were forgotten. Like the malformed infants the state left to die. So why do we still glorify Sparta? Because some with twisted motives saw an opportunity to weaponize their myth. In the 20th century, fascist regimes resurrected Sparta as an ideal society. Hitler called the Spartans the first racially pure state. He praised their treatment of Helots and admired how they culled the weak and trained boys in brutality. He wrote in Mein Kampf, "The Spartans were the first to apply racial selection. The subjugation of 350,000 Helots by 6,000 Spartans was made possible because of their racial purity." The SS, the Nazis' enforcers, didn't just admire Sparta. They studied it. They saw the Agoge not just as history, but as a blueprint for the Hitler Youth. Boys taken from their families, trained to endure pain, taught to obey without question. No softness, no mercy, only loyalty and control. Just like in Sparta. Even today, Sparta's myth lives on, not because it's true, but because it serves a purpose. A useful lie, repackaged for power. After all, Sparta isn't just a history lesson. It's a brand, a symbol of strength, discipline, brotherhood. From movies to gym memberships, we've made Spartans into icons. Leonidas became a meme. Their famous one-liners became punchlines. But every time we strip away the context, the Helots, the terror, the obedience, we make the lie stronger. And that lie is profitable because it sells a story we want to believe. That we can be strong without being cruel. That we can inherit their glory without their sins. In the end, Sparta didn't fall in a glorious battle. It crumbled over centuries from within. The Helots rose in rebellion. An earthquake shattered its people. Its citizen class withered away. Its military was broken at the Battle of Leuctra. And by the time Rome arrived, Sparta was no longer feared, just remembered. A relic, a museum of cruelty dressed as honor. A state that died not by sword, but by stagnation. So, why do we still admire them? Why do we quote their slogans, wear their helmets, idolize their violence? Because the myth is clean, glorious, cinematic. The truth is harder, but more important. The Spartans weren't freedom fighters. They were agents of control, state-sponsored killers, raised to obey, trained to dominate, and conditioned to never question why. You can admire their bravery, but don't forget what they were brave for. Next time someone calls Sparta badass, ask them, are they cheering for the warrior or the regime? Because behind every myth is a motive, and behind every legend is a lie someone needed you to believe. History remembers what it's told, but we're here to tell what it forgets. Like and subscribe to see what they left out.